It's the 15th of the month, your credit card payment is due, you open the app, the balance stares back at you. $4,200. Your stomach drops. You scroll down, there are two numbers. Total balance, $4,200, and right below it, in smaller, friendlier text, minimum payment due, $126. $126. That's manageable. That's doable. That's less than your grocery bill. So you click Pay Minimum Payment. The confirmation screen appears, payment successful, thank you for being a responsible card holder. You close the app, you feel relief, you feel like you handled it, you feel responsible. But here's what just happened. Here's what that credit card company isn't telling you. At $126 per month, it's going to take you 7 years and 9 months to pay off that $4,200. Not 4 months, not a year, 7 years and 9 months. And by the time you're done, you won't have paid $4,200. You'll have paid $11,700. You just agreed to pay $7,500 in interest. That's 179% more than what you borrowed for a pair of plane tickets and a hotel room you charged 8 years ago. You didn't make a responsible choice. You made the exact choice the credit card company designed you to make, because that minimum payment, it wasn't calculated to help you. It was calculated to maximize their profit, and it's working. The average American household with credit card debt pays $1,380 per year in interest alone. Not paying down the debt, just interest. That's $41,400 over 30 years for nothing, for the privilege of paying slowly. This is the minimum payment trap, and it's not an accident. It's not bad luck. It's a mathematically engineered system designed to keep you in debt for as long as possible. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how they built this trap, why your brain falls for it every single time, and how much it's actually costing you. My name is Marcus, and on this channel, we expose the psychology billion-dollar companies use to extract money from you. Not tips, not hacks, the actual predatory systems that keep you broke. And the credit card industry is one of the most profitable scams in American history because they convinced an entire generation that paying the minimum is responsible, and responsible people stay in debt forever. Let me show you how the trap works by following one real purchase almost 8 years. His name is Carlos. Carlos is 32. In March 2018, Carlos charged $4,200 to his credit card. Spring break trip to Miami. Flights, hotel, clubs, dinners. He knew it was expensive, but he told himself he'd pay it off when he got his tax refund. Then the tax refund came, and it wasn't as big as he thought. And he had other bills, so Carlos looked at his credit card statement and saw that friendly number. Minimum payment, $126. $126 felt doable, so he paid it. April 2018, $126 paid. New balance, $4,137. Wait, he paid $126 and the balance only went down by $63? Where did the other $63 go? Interest. The credit card has a 19.99% APR. That's $63 in interest for 1 month. So of his $126 payment, half went to interest and half went to actually paying down what he owed. But Carlos didn't really notice. He just saw payment successful. May 2018, Carlos pays another $126. New balance, $4,073. Only $64 of his payment went to the actual debt. June 2018, another $126. Balance, $4,008. This continues month after month. Carlos is paying $126 every single month, and the balance is barely moving. But Carlos feels responsible. He's never missed a payment. He's making the minimum every month like clockwork. Let's fast forward. It's now January 2020, almost 2 years later. Carlos has paid $126 for 22 months. That's $2,772 he's paid. The balance is now $2,890. He's paid $2,772 and still owes $2,890. He's paid more than half of the original debt and still owes more than half.
The math doesn't make sense, but it does because most of his payments went to interest, not principal. Fast forward again, January 2023, 5 years since the original charge. Carlos has now paid $126 for 58 months. That's $7,308 paid. The balance is $1,247. He's paid $7,308 and still owes $1,247. He borrowed $4,200 and has already paid back $7,308, and he's still not done. Fast forward one more time, December 2025, 7 years and 9 months later. Carlos makes his final $126 payment. Total paid $11,700 for a $4,200 trip to Miami in 2018 that he barely remembers. He paid $7,500 in interest. He could have taken that trip 3 times for the same money, but it didn't. He paid it once and then paid the credit card company $7,500 for the privilege of paying slowly.
Now, here's the part that should make you furious. That minimum payment wasn't random. Credit card companies didn't just pick a number, they engineered it, and they engineered it using psychology. In 2005, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency did a study. They analyzed how credit card companies calculate minimum payments. What they found was disturbing. Most credit card companies set the minimum payment at exactly 2 to 3% of your balance. Why that number? Because it's the perfect trap. It's low enough that you can afford it, but high enough that you feel like you're making progress. And it's mathematically designed to keep you in debt for 7 to 12 years. There's a name for the psychology they're exploiting. It's called the goal gradient effect. Your brain feels a sense of progress when you make any payment toward a goal. It doesn't matter if that payment is meaningful. It doesn't matter if you're actually making progress. The act of paying triggers a dopamine response. You feel relief. You feel accomplishment. Your brain rewards you for being responsible. And that feeling is enough to keep you paying the minimum, month after month, year after year. Here's the evil genius of it. If credit card companies set the minimum payment too low, say 1% of the balance, you'd see that the balance barely moves and you'd get frustrated and pay it off faster. If they set it too high, say 10%, you couldn't afford it and you'd default. But 2 to 3%, that's the sweet spot. You can afford it, you feel like you're being responsible, and you stay in debt for a decade. And it gets worse. Credit card companies lobbied Congress in 2003 to make minimum payments even smaller. Before 2003, most credit card companies required a minimum payment of 4 to 5% of the balance. But credit card lobbyists argued that these higher minimums were burdensome to consumers. Translation, people were paying off their debt too fast and were not making enough interest. So they got Congress to allow minimum payments as low as 1 to 2%. The result? The average time to pay off credit card debt doubled. Let me show you the difference. Carlos's $4,200 at 19.99% APR. At a 5% minimum payment, it would take 3 years and 2 months to pay off. Total interest paid, $1,680. At a 2% minimum, what he actually paid, it takes 7 years and 9 months. Total interest paid, $7,500. Lowering the minimum from 5% to 2% cost Carlos an extra $5,820 and an extra 4 years and 7 months in debt. That wasn't consumer protection. That was a profit boost for banks. Now let me show you how big this industry actually is. Because Carlos isn't unique. This is happening to millions of Americans simultaneously. And the numbers is staggering. According to the Federal Reserve, total credit card debt in the United States is $1.13 trillion as of 2024. That's trillion with a T. The average household with credit card debt carries $7,876 in balances, and 46% of those households only make the minimum payment. That's 46 million households paying the minimum, staying in debt, hemorrhaging interest. Credit card companies made $130 billion in interest and fees in 2023. Not revenue, profit, $130 billion. And the majority of that comes from people making minimum payments. There's an internal term the industry uses. They call these customers revolvers, people who revolve a balance month to month. And revolvers are their most profitable customers. More profitable than people who pay in full. More profitable than people who use rewards because revolvers pay interest forever. JP Morgan Chase's credit card division reported in their 2023 earnings that their average interest revenue per revolver was $1,847 per year. Multiply that by their 67 million active cardholders. That's $123 billion in annual interest revenue. From people who think they're being responsible by making minimum payments. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, has a net worth of $2.3 billion. A significant portion of that wealth came from people like Carlos paying $7,500 in interest on a $4,200 vacation. Here's a quote from a 2019 Consumer Financial Protection Bureau report that should enrage you. Credit card issuers have designed minimum payment structures to optimize long-term profitability rather than consumer financial health. Our analysis shows that consumers who pay only the minimum systematically underestimate the time and cost required to eliminate their debt. Translation: they know you don't understand how long this will take, and they're counting on it. There was a study done by behavioral economist Dilip Soman in 1991. He showed people two scenarios. Scenario A: you owe $4,200. Pay it off in 8 months at $525 a month. Scenario B: you owe $4,200. Pay the minimum of $126 a month. Then he asked, which option will you cost you more in total? 68% of people correctly identify that paying minimum payments would cost more. But when asked which option will you choose, 71% chose the minimum. People know the minimum is a trap, but they choose it anyway because $126 feels manageable right now. And right now is all your brain cares about. This is called present bias. Your brain weighs immediate comfort more heavily than future costs. $525 a month feels painful today. $126 a month feels fine today. So you choose $126, even though you know it'll cost you $7,500 extra. Your brain is wired to avoid immediate pain, and credit card companies have weaponized that wiring.
Now, let me show you what Carlos should have done, because the math is shocking when you see it side by side. Carlos charged $4,200 in March 2018. He had 3 realistic options. Option 1, pay it off in 6 months. That's $700 a month. Total paid $4,200. Interest paid 0. Time and debt 6 months. This is painful short term, but optimal long term. Carlos would have been debt free by September 2018. Option 2, pay it off in 12 months. That's $350 a month. Total paid $4,430. Interest paid $230. Time and debt 12 months. This is manageable and still reasonable. Carlos would have been debt-free by March 2019. Option 3, what Carlos actually did. Pay the minimum of $126 a month. Total paid $11,700. Interest paid $7,500. Time in debt 7 years and 9 months. Carlos won't be debt-free until December 2025. He's still in debt right now for a trip he took in 2018. The difference between option 2 and option 3 is $7,270 in 6 years and 9 months of his life for the same $4,200 debt. The only difference is how fast he paid it. But here's the thing. Carlos couldn't afford $350 a month in 2018. He was barely making rent. That's why he paid the minimum. The minimum was all he could afford. And that's the real trap, because credit card companies don't give you credit based on what you can afford to pay back quickly. They give you credit based on what you can afford to pay back slowly. The credit limit isn't designed to help you. It's designed to maximize the amount of interest you'll pay over time. If Carlos could only afford $126 a month, the credit card company should have given him a $1,500 limit. But they gave him a $7,500 limit because they want him to charge $4,200 and then spend 8 years paying it back. There's a reason why credit card companies send you pre-approved offers for credit limit increases. It's not because you're financially healthy. It's because you've proven you'll carry a balance and pay interest. Every time you make a minimum payment, you're telling them, I'm a profitable customer. So they increase your limit. They give you more rope, and then you charge more, and then you make minimum payments on a bigger balance, and the cycle repeats. The average American with credit card debt will pay $179,000 in credit card interest over their lifetime. That's a house. That's more than most people's student loans. That's retirement, gone because of minimum payments.
So how do you escape? How do you break the minimum payment trap? Here's the system, and it's not pretty. It requires sacrifice, but it works. Step 1. Stop using the card immediately. You cannot dig yourself out of a hole while you're still digging. Freeze your credit cards. Put them in a drawer. Cut them up if you have to. Whatever it takes. No new charges. Period. Step 2. Calculate your real payoff timeline. Go to a credit card calculator online. Input your balance, your APR, and your minimum payment. Look at the total interest you'll pay. Look at how many years it'll take. Let that number make you angry. Use that anger as fuel. Step 3. The debt avalanche method. List all your debts by interest rate. Highest rate first. Make minimum payments on everything except the highest rate debt. On that highest rate debt, pay as much as you possibly can. Every extra dollar goes there. When that debt is gone, move to the next highest rate. This mathematically minimizes interest paid. Step 4. Find the money. This is the hard part. You need to find extra money to pay more than the minimum. Cut subscriptions. Cancel services. Stop eating out. Sell stuff you don't use. Pick up overtime. Drive for Uber on weekends. I'm not saying it's fun. I'm saying it's necessary. Every extra $50 a month you find cuts months off your payoff timeline and saves you hundreds in interest. Step 5. Call your credit card company and negotiate. This works more often than you think. Call them. Say, I'm struggling to pay this debt. I want to pay it off, but the interest is killing me. Can you lower my interest rate? Sometimes they'll drop it from 19.99% to 14.99%. That's 5% less interest. On a $4,200 balance, that saved you about $1,200 in total interest. One phone call, 15 minutes, $1,200 saved. If you have multiple credit cards, consider a balance transfer to a 0% APR card. Many cards offer 12 to 18 months of 0% interest on transfers. Yes, there's usually a 3% fee, but 3% once is way better than 19.99% forever. Transfer to balance, pay it off aggressively during the 0% period. No interest accruing means every dollar you pay goes straight to principal. Here's your homework. Right now, today, log into every credit card account you have. Write down the balance, the APR, and the minimum payment. Add up all the balances. That's your total credit card debt. Now use a calculator to figure out how long it'll take to pay off at minimum payments. Look at that number. Feel it. Then decide today that you're going to pay it off faster. If this video made you check your credit card balance, hit subscribe. And if you missed my last video on the invisible subscriptions, go watch it. I expose how you're paying $47 a month for services